Holy smokes, I was almost late. Holy smokes, we are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this College Football Rebel Outpost channel with a donation. Just hit the $ where you make a comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Everybody, and I mean everybody, is welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. Okay. So, I know you're all watching college basketball. You're all watching the tournament. Once again, I'm butting into your lives, into your busy lives. I get it. I get it. If you got to turn this off, please come back and watch the live show later on. If you want to come in and out of the chat room, that's all cool. If you believe that I am being a jerk and is interrupting your big dance at the NCAA tournament, I really got no argument. I am being a jerk. This is a college football YouTube channel. We can come on live at any time. Breaking news, or the breaking news that we deliver. Or if we just want to talk college football, we are coming on live. Got to keep your head on a swivel. If you're going to be part of the PATC family, and thank you that you are, you got to keep your head on a swivel. But let's talk about basketball for a little bit here. We talk football 99% of the time here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. There's a little bit of 1% where we mix in some other things, but we have talked about basketball. We talked about basketball last year. We discussed it a lot. When connecting the dots, we talked about how basketball was going to play a bigger part in connecting the dots. They were going to be a bigger dot. By the way, thank you for everybody for joining us again on a Saturday, March 22nd. I am very humbled that anybody would want to join the College Football YouTube channel during a beautiful Saturday afternoon while the NCAA basketball is going on. So I'm very humbled. We talked about it last year. We gave you the information, the peak, that Greg Sankey believed that basketball was going to go whoop in value in the next 5 years. Brett Yormark believes the same thing. Oh, by the way, they both want an expanded tournament. Remember, early last year when we were starting to talk about all this, that wasn't the talk. But it fits right into what Sankey and Yormark want. The title of this show is Football is Driving the Bus. But basketball doesn't need to run on diesel engines. Now let me make this clear. So everybody can understand, except for a couple people out there who never seem to understand what we are saying, or they just happen to be pathological liars. One or the other. Football drives the bus when it comes to the values of the front porch of the universities, of the biggest universities. They drive the bus when it comes to media value, to the media partners. Football drives the bus in the next realignment wave. But history will tell us, and I think the near future is going to tell us, that it's not the only thing on the buffet table. Football. It's the biggest part of the meal, but it's not everything. It just isn't, it hasn't, and it won't be. I love Amanda Kristovich from Front Office Sports. I happen to think she probably is possibly one of the top 3 sports writers right now. I stole the last sentence of her incredible article that she just put out. The latest prevailing wins. I put that on the title screen. We're going to talk about UConn. we're going to talk about, we're going to go back and talk about Duke. Even though 95% of the PAC family completely understands what I've been reporting on, there's still some questions out there. Why? Greg, why are you saying Duke's going to become a Big Ten member? I didn't say that. I didn't even come close to saying that. I said that Duke is a long shot, but a live shot, but a long shot. We have heard stuff here. There's no, well, again, I'm okay with you all disagreeing with me. I do not go after people in the chat room are disagreeing with me all the time. I highlight their chats. I continue to highlight their chats. I take your phone calls. We can disagree. But don't lie about what I said. Don't lie about what other evil YouTubers have reported and have said. We have heard at Peek Around the Corner that the big money people at Duke are highly aggressive and active. They've got a message and they've been putting it out. And again, all transparency, college football, Peek Around the Corner, we might be part of their plans. Very well could be. I have been always transparent that information, good information, credible information, Peek Around the Corner information is highly motivated by those who are giving it to BTM and his associates. So look, the whole USC thing, I was definitely a part of their plans. The whole Colorado to the Big 12, the meeting in Chicago, it was given to me, but it was accurate. The USC was accurate. The information that was given to me on Washington and Oregon, when I said over and over again, if it ain't going to happen in the next 5 months, it's going to happen in the next 5 years. And I put down what needed to happen for Oregon and Washington to get into the Big Ten within the next 5 months. And every single one of those things happened, starting with Kevin Warren leaving the Big Ten office. Sure, what is given to me is tainted. I even discussed that on the Los Angeles Times article. I said I was transparent. If this show is anything, it's not infallible. I don't always sing on tune, on key. My predictions against the spread has got to be at the bottom of every college football YouTube host out there. But whatever this show is, it's authentic. I'm telling you, the Duke big money people are on the march. I don't know if that's going to be successful. I don't know if they're going to get into the SEC, the Big Ten. I still got them as a dark horse for other reasons. But don't go out there and lie and said that college football Peek Around the Corner reported something that we did not say. And by the way, Moen did not say it either. So number one, either you've got to be able to slow down your comprehension, or number two, try to step away from the pathological lies. Either one, as you go back and hide behind your fake avatar and your fake life. Now, this is all connected in some way, somehow. Yormark, Sankey, basketball, expanding the tournament, more money coming in. The SEC is just, yeah, they weren't all that successful in the first round, but they're raking in the cash. The top targeted school. Amanda Krisovich getting back to Amanda Krisovich. That article coming out is thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because when we go through that article, I think people are going to understand why Brett Yormark continues to pursue UConn. Why Duke is now mentioned at Peek Around the Corner as a dark horse, a looming dark horse when it comes to the entry into the P2, and why the Duke people think they got a shot. That article, The New Reality of College Athletics. Football is driving the bus, but basketball can run without using diesel engines. We're going to get to all that. But again, today I will first go through college football's peek around the corner, way too early order of finish predictions. This is the time where you can mock me. This is the time where you can laugh at me. This is the time where you can write this all down and come early October, heck, late September. You can rip on me, you can rip on me, you can rip on me. I just looked at my 2024 Big 12 way too early predictions. Holy smokes. Not good. The only thing I did good in the Big 12 predictions last year is I had Oklahoma State slipping, which a lot of you buried me on, and I had Iowa State finishing in third, which a lot of you buried me on, but everything else I got wrong. I got wrong. Embarrassingly wrong again. So we are going to start out college football's peek around the corner, way too early Big 12 order of finish prediction. And I got a surprise at number 2. I've got a shocker at number 2. My prediction of a certain team to finish in second place to get into the Big 12 championship game, I am going to shock the hell out of the PATC family. And I have noticed, as we go through the roll call here, there is representation of this particular team in the chat room. Now, the reaction of those particular PATC family members in the chat room, once they see I predicted their team number 2, it might be all negative. Because they believe I'm still going to be Greg the Cooler in 2025. I am not Greg the Cooler. I am Greg the Gold. So do not panic. When you hear that your team is predicted number 2, don't panic. Relax. No, don't relax. Celebrate. Celebrate, because it's happening, baby. It is absolutely happening. We are going to go through it. First of all, Ryan Willie, congratulations. Congratulations to the Evil Badger. Wisconsin's women hockey will win their 8th national championship tomorrow. Wisconsin will get their revenge versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. The women's Frozen Four. The Buckeyes beat Cornell, I believe, 4-2. Wisconsin beat Minnesota, maybe 6-2. I might have that wrong. Congratulations to Wisconsin, to the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes are the reigning, defending national champions in women's hockey. Wisconsin has been number 1 pretty much all year. They've only lost one hockey game, Wisconsin's like 37, 38, and 1. Wisconsin is the heavy chalk. Congratulations to Ryan Willie. Thank you for the super chat. I very much appreciate it. Let's go through the roll call once again. Thank you, Ryan Willie, and congratulations. USC Jose is in the house. Penn State Charlie Atwood. Jimmy is here. Steel Austin is in the house. Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk, Azon, the kid. Preston from Greensboro. Patrick Baylor, Bolt Bear. Old Dad. Susan Murray. Max and I are here. That's not good news. That is not good news. Sue is my older sister. Of course, all my sisters, all my brothers are older than me. Let me repeat that. They're all older than I am. Sue Murray has come over. She's taking care of Maxine, my mother. They're both in the chat room. Behave yourself, because the little general is not back from Mexico yet. She's coming back Monday night. So Maxine Flugar is ruling with an iron fist. Susan and Maxine are in the chat. Holy smokes. Daniel Gorby is in the house. Jay Go Blue. Ohio Bobcats, Stephen Vitt. Morris Simmons. Cyclone, Stormy Cyclone. Mr. Buckeye, Caleb Ramirez. Jay Chapman. Ryan Brooks. Anthony Carlson. Mr. Sparty is in the house. Duke, could they sneak into the Big Ten? Yeah, they could. I got them as a dark horse. That could change. But they could. They're trying. A lot of people are trying right now. Duke's one of them. Jonathan Price, let's do this thing, Greg. Thank you, Jonathan, for coming on in. Deadeye. Yo, Greg. Yo, Deadeye. Yo, Deadeye. Clinton Moses is in the house. CFB Plus, I previously thought UConn to the 12 was a matter of time. But with the instability of the ACC, I'm quickly cooling down on that. I think UConn to the Big 12 has never been the chalk, never been the favorite. But they've got an opportunity. I still think they've got an opportunity. Late last year, we reported, we gave the peek around the corner that UConn, it wasn't going to be a yes or no, it was going to be a pause on the Big 12's decision making. And then a couple weeks later, it was reported that it wasn't going to be a yes or no, it was going to be a pause. This year, I don't think there can be any real decision on anything until the House versus NCAA settlement happens. UConn, we completely believe that UConn is in the mix when it comes to the private capital plans. But again, I think there is a future in which the Big 12 could get a private capital deal, and UConn is not a part of it. I even think there's a potential of no private capital deal. But I don't think they were when I thought they were at the 5-yard line, I don't believe they were at the 5-yard line. I think they were at the 15-yard line. I don't think they were quite ready to punch that private capital deal in, as I reported last week. We'll see what happens there. I am not a believer in all, and I'm going to go through that article from Amanda Krisovich. I am not a believer at all that UConn and the ACC have a future together. Some still believe that could happen. I don't think that would ever happen until the ACC loses some schools. Now, the instability, the early instability of the ACC, earlier than I think a lot of us thought, including me, I think that might have hindered UConn. So I would agree with CFB Plus on that. The instability of the ACC might have, I think I completely believe that Yormark is still trying to get that done. We'll get into it. We will get into it. Expedition Greg, let's go Buckeyes, beat Michigan State for the Big Ten Hockey Championship. It sounds like the Buckeyes, the Spartans, the Gophers, and Penn State are all going to the men's NCAA hockey tournament. Penn State snuck in. They're going to be about a 13th seed out of 16 teams. Something like that. Okay, who else is in the house? Daniel Gorby, football is the money. No question. Morris Simmons, football is king. No question. Duke to the SEC of the Big Ten, Greg. I think they are a dark horse for either one. I tried to be as clear as I possibly could when I brought up the peek around the corner. Factual information that Duke's big money is aggressive. They believe they've got a shot. They're going to go for it. And they've got their big guns out. And we're going to talk about a little bit more. But I did not report. I have been so clear on this. And it's not just genetics that is reporting what I said incorrectly. There are other people out there. There are people that really, for whatever reason, they live on taking anything I say and twisting it. I think that is their reason for getting up in the morning. Grateful Trojan is in the house. MBM is here. Tumasta. Ricky Tungate just saying hello. Thank you for the super chat. Mr. Hoosier, thank you so much for your generosity. I do appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much. Mr. Hoosier, Ricky Tungate, got their new basketball coach. TM Everywhere Rambler, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Yes, football is the driver, but to maximize income, you need basketball too. It's a growth ceiling, definitely able to rise. Alani Ted is in the house. Men's basketball is 9-0 in the tournament, and that's never been done before. Wow. Wow. The Observer is in the house. Dogs and Dubs is here. St. John's is coming back. Oh, I get it. Greg the Iceberg. Okay. Yormark in the red. Okay, let's get to it. First of all, thank you for everybody joining us. I appreciate it. Who's your number 2 pick? I'm going to get to it. The Big Lubbock. I'm going to get to it. Right now. Let's get to it. We're going to just go through a little table setter. This article was a couple weeks ago from SI, from James Park. James Park from Sports Illustrated. The Big 12 football power rankings as 2025 spring practice begins. Where things stand in the Big 12 as the spring practices start. And yes, the spring practices have begun. And we've been talking a little bit about that. We talked about on Friday live show, Austin Mack, Alabama. Good reports out of Austin Mack, redshirt sophomore, battling for the QB1 at Alabama. Let's get quickly. Now, this is going to be just very short synapses of every Big 12 team, like a paragraph, small little paragraph. SI, college football isn't known for its competitive balance, but when looking at the top of the Big 12 pecking order, all that comes out is a conference of relative equals in the mix for the title in 2025. Arizona State is the defending Big 12 champion, and it's possible we see it repeat this season, but there are a good half a dozen other teams that could dethrone the Sun Devils. And I would agree with that. While it is just springtime and first impressions can be deceiving, particularly in an era of immediate transfers and NIL initiatives that can completely change what a team looks like from spring to fall kickoff. What is the Big 12 dealing with entering the 25 season? SI is taking an early preview of the conference football ranking systems as the teams begin spring practice. Number 16 in their power rankings. Now, my rankings are going to be a prediction of order to finish. Way too early prediction of order to finish. SI has got the Cowboys, number 16. There is a very critical eye on Mike Gundy to right the ship after not winning a single Big 12 game a year ago, especially with lead back Ollie Gordon out of the picture and a big question at the quarterback position that still needs to be answered. I do not have the Cowboys at 16, but I got them closer to 16 than I got them at number 1. I was not a big believer in the Cowboys last year. I think they might even take another step back this year. This might be Mike Gundy's last year. Could the Cowboys surprise? They could. We're going to see who wins that quarterback battle. UCF, number 15, SI Power Rankings. Scott Frost returned to the Knights after his failed tenure at Nebraska. He faces an uphill battle, inheriting a roster that loses wideout Kobe Hudson and the big old back DJ Harvey. I have made it clear how I feel about Scott Frost. Can he do it again at UCF? We're going to find out. But I am not a believer in Scott Frost. He's going to have to prove it to me again. UCF 15 in the SI Power Rankings. Number 14, Arizona. Brent Brennan saw too many of his players leave the program via the portal this offseason to predict any sustained success into the fall, but the offense should be able to build something around quarterback Noah Fafita. Number 13, Cincinnati in the power rankings. Scott Scatterfield is facing some pressure to get things right, but he has a few important ingredients on his side, including a quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, who had over 3,000 yards passing. But the Bearcats have just 4 returning starters on defense and an offensive line in need of replacements. And we see that throughout the Big 12 Conference, here during the spring, here during the summer months coming up. Not a whole lot of returning starters on defense for multiple Big 12 teams. Something to keep an eye on. Number 12, West Virginia. Rich Rodriguez is back in Morgantown for a second go-around. But there isn't much left in the cupboard to build any immediate contender. Just 3 starters are back. And none of them are on the O-line. And again, Rich Rodriguez, the people of Morgantown, I think they're going to give him this whole entire year. Maybe I'm being naive, but I think most Mountaineers know that it's going to take a little bit of a time. They don't hardly have any starters back at all coming back next year. Number 11, Houston, making a jump in the power rankings, making a jump upward. A half a dozen returning starters on the defensive side of the ball, plus the acquisition of Texas A&M transfer quarterback Connor Wegman, make the Cougars a team to watch in the top half of the Big 12 standings this fall. Wow. Everybody had Houston dead last season, right? Pretty much everybody. Willie Fritz, the end of the Big 12 season last year, the Houston Cougars found a pulse. And now a lot of people are saying, well, I think they're going to build on that momentum. The Houston Cougars are going to build on that momentum. Number 10, Colorado. We're about to see if Deion Sanders' success last year was really just Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, or whether Coach Prime can build a program without those high-profile stars. Caden Salter is no slouch. The transfer from Liberty as a dual-threat quarterback is a playmaker in his own right. Number 9, the Baylor Bears. Dave Aranda's team started just 2-4 a year ago, but won its final 6th regular season game and now returns Sawyer Robertson at the quarterback position, who posted over 2,600 yards, passing in 24. Number 8, TCU. Josh Hoover, one of the 9 returning starters for the Horned Frogs. I put up a post a couple days ago about Andy Avalos, a defensive coordinator. He's in his 2nd year. Showed a little bit of improvement in TCU's defense. 2023, they were real bad. 2024, average, but much better than 23. Andy Avalos, if he can improve the Horned Frogs defense, give them another jump, who knows what TCU can do. Number 7, Utah. Expect the Utes to once again field one of the more physical, most disciplined defenses in the Big 12, but their conference title hopes will also hinge on how well Kyle Whittingham can install the offensive coordinators Jason Beck's offense with the transfer quarterback Devon Dampier. Beck Dampier. That is the story at Utah. It's going to be fun to watch. Very interesting to watch. Ute fans, look, there's some optimism. There's some optimism growing. Number 6, Kansas. Started 1-5 last year, but went 4-2 the rest of the way. Jalen Daniels back under center. Again, rework in a defense that is expected to bring back just 3 starters from last season. That story in the Big 12, it's all over. I mean, it's multiple teams in the Big 12. Big 12's defense beginning next season. Just keep an eye on those non-conference games. The Big 12 defenses might be giving up some points. Number 5, Texas Tech. Maybe no other transfer class is more talented, top to bottom, than what the Red Raiders brought in the offseason. A group that in tandem with quarterback, the Red Barry Morton, should be enough for this team to finish near the top of the conference. Texas Tech Red Raiders is not the team that I have at number 2. They are not the shocker. But the Red Raiders, for me, are a team that I could easily move up in my prediction of order to finish when we do the official order of finish predictions in August. You know, they got the great transfer defensive tackle, Hunter Lee, along with a whole bunch of other guys. Texas Tech Red Raiders. I'm going to be fascinated to see what the Big 12 media members, how they rank the Red Raiders during the Big 12 media days. That is going to be very interesting. Number 4, Iowa State. There's a tougher schedule for the Cyclones this year, but all the hardest games come at home, and the offense will be led again by veteran quarterback Rocco Becht. Number 3, BYU. The most productive defense in the Big 12, both in scoring and total production, will look different. but should have improved given the quality of its incoming transfer class. And while quarterback Jake Ratzlaff returns, his receiving core is largely untested. Number 2, Arizona State. SI did not have Arizona State number 1. They had him number 2. The loss of tailback Cam Scatterbo is enough for us to knock the defending Big 12 champion Sun Devils out of the top spot, but there's plenty of other experience at other positions, led by quarterback Sam Levitt. Number 1, SI Power Rankings, Kansas State, the Wildcats. Avery Johnson enters his second full year as the Wildcats starting quarterback with running back Dylan Edwards, returning behind center to give his offense a promising 1-2 punch. But again, head coach Chris Kleiman needs to patch some cracks in his defense. That was a short little synapse of the Big 12 teams' SI Power Rankings. Anthony Carlson, I'm taking off soon to see my Spartans take on the Buckeyes at Munn Arena for the Big Ten Hockey Tournament title. Go Green, Anthony Carlson. Good luck, Michigan State, Ohio State for the Big Ten Tournament title. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your incredible generosity, Mr. Carlson. Michigan State has been one hell of a hockey team this season. They're going to be tough to beat. They are the favorites going into the championship game against the Buckeyes. But those Buckeyes are going to give you fits. They're going to give you fits. It's going to be a good game. I'm going to try to catch a rerun of that later tonight. Okay. So, how do I see it? Those were the power rankings. This is the PATC. Way too early predictions. Way too early. If I can find the right there we go. 2025 PATC order of finish predictions. The Big 12. Last week we did the SEC. I'm starting with number 1. So you're going to see the shocker at number 2. Before you leave the chat room, before you slam down your computer mouse or your computer or your TV remote, please give me a chance to explain. Please give me a chance to explain. And for the fan base out there, in which I have their team as number 2, please don't stroke out. Don't stop believing just because Greg the Gold has your team at number 2. Don't stroke out. You gotta believe. You gotta believe. You gotta overcome the fact that I predict your team to be the shocking second place finish and going into the Big 12 championship. Now, this is not my official prediction. This is my way too early. It all could change in August. It all could change in August. Big 12. Number 1, Arizona State. The Sun Devils lost Cam Scatterbo, but they're getting back their great wide receiver, Tyson, who got injured at the end of last season, who had a great effect on Arizona State's ability not to overcome the Longhorns. They got the transfer running back from Army that I am fascinated to see how he does with the Arizona State Sun Devils. Sam Levitt, he is the real deal Holyfield. Arizona State, number 1. Number 2, the shocker, the Baylor Bears. Patrick Baylor, I can hear you screaming. I just heard you run out of the room and you slam the door. Hopefully you come back into the chat room. The Baylor Bears, the receiving core, they got a couple top receivers coming back. They've got Washington and Pendergrass coming back in the backfield. They've got Sori Robinson. The Baylor Bears offense is going to be damn good. And the defense, Dave Aranda took over the play calling last year. The defense is going to rise. The Baylor Bears won 9 games last year. The Baylor Bears are going to shock the world. And they are going to come in second place in the Big 12 in 2025. At least right now they are. This is my way too early predictions. I looked at the schedule. I broke down all the tapes. Baylor, number 2. Kansas State, number 3. I had Kansas State, number 1 last year. I still got them up in the top 4. I got them right there knocking on the door. Avery Johnson, I just got to see a little bit more elevation. I like Dylan Edwards. I think he's going to, if they use him like they used him in the bowl game, look out, baby. Look out for Kansas State. I got them number 3. Number 4, Iowa State. For all the same reasons I had them number 3 last year. Don't be surprised if the Cyclones are in the championship game. They got a tougher schedule this year. BYU, number 5. They're going to be knocking on the door. They're going to be knocking on the door. They've got some stuff they got to do on defense like a lot of teams do on this list. BYU Cougars are going to be knocking on the door. Number 6, Texas Tech. They're going to be knocking on the door. They are the big wild card here. Bringing in all those transfers. We're going to know early. We're going to know early if the Red Raiders are prepped, ready, primed to go to the Big 12 championship game early in the Big 12 season. This is the one that I could see moving up to 4, 3, 2, even possibly 1. The Red Raiders at number 6. By when the calendar turns to August. But right now, I'm going to settle back. All those transfers, great transfer portal class, Hunter Lee. I'm going to put the Red Raiders at 6. I'm going to genuflect. I'm going to ponder. We'll see what happens. Utah, number 7. A little bit better than middle of the conference. Again, I want to see the OC and the new QB, if that's all going to work out for Kyle Whittingham. Utah, number 7. Number 8, Kansas. Number 9, Colorado. Could not have either Kansas or Colorado higher than this. Number 10, TCU again. Like what they're doing. I really do. They had a good season last year. Andy Avalos improved the defense. Should I have TCU at number 8? Could I have them at 7? I consider 7 through 10 a batch. That is a batch of teams. 7, 8, 9, and 10. I could have switched them up a little bit differently in that batch, but I believe they are in that batch. Texas Tech, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, Baylor, I've got them in their batch. And it just so happens I got the shocker at number 2. This is a batch of teams that I think belong together. Baylor, Kansas State, Iowa State, BYU, Texas Tech. This is the next one. Utah, Kansas, Colorado, TCU. Now, I do think things change a little bit here. Number 11, West Virginia. I think there's too many question marks. I think West Virginia, I think they got the right coach. They brought back Rich Rodriguez. They brought him back. There's a lot of energy at Morgantown, and that counts for something. Right? The boosters are backing it up. Rich Rodriguez. It's just too much going on. I've got West Virginia, the head of the next batch. Cincinnati, Houston. This is my third batch. Houston, look, I get it. They got a lot of, I had them 16 last year. I got them 13 this year. Willie Fritz, Connor Wegman. You guys know how much I like Connor Wegman. It's too bad he can't stay healthy. You guys know how much I like Brendan Sorsby. They did lose some guys. West Virginia, Cincinnati, Houston. That is my next batch of teams. And then the last batch, Arizona. I got them ahead of the next batch because of Noah Fafita. Oklahoma State, quarterback situation. UCF, Scott Frost situation. UCF 16. Oklahoma State 15. Arizona 14. Houston 13. Cincinnati 12. West Virginia 11. TCU 10. Colorado 9. Kansas 8. Utah 7. Texas Tech 6. BYU 5. Iowa State 4. Kansas State 3. Baylor number 2. Arizona State number 1. That is my order of finish prediction and my way too early PATC Big 12. And some of it, not all of it, some of it could change in August where we make our official predictions. And for the next 4 or 5 months, the PATC family can tell me how crazy I am. Greg, change it up. Greg, change it up, you stupid idiot. Change it up, Greg. Let me know in the chat room. Let me know how wrong I got it once again. Okay, before we get to your phone calls, and before we get to all the comments, that tells me how wrong I got it once again. Stephen Vitt, Baylor's nowhere near 2 quality. I think Baylor, number 2, is too high. Carla Jenkins. They're all over me. They are all over me. They are all over me for my predictions. TCU should be a little higher than 10. Stephen Vitt. Texas Tech, nobody knows. I'm glad Greg is still Greg the Cooler. It is ice cold at PATC. Texas Tech will win the Big 12. Patrick Baylor Bear. Baylor will be 8+ wins in 25. Thank you, Patrick, for not slamming the door, for leaving the PATC chat room. Patrick Baylor Bear, you got to believe. You've got to believe. Greg the Cooler is not a strong enough description. Wow. Wow, they're coming after me. They are coming after me. 0 chance Arizona State repeats. Tumasta, Arizona State back-to-back. St. John's lost 75-66. Greg the Cold, Vox Quindaro. Greg, you have some explaining to do. Sounds like Arkansas win. Go Cougars, beat those evil Badgers tonight. Ryan Thomas, Super Chat. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Ryan Thomas. Go Cougars, beat those Badgers. Patrick Baylor Bear, I believe Greg. There you go. There we go. We got one believer. That's all I need is one believer. Okay, give me a second here. And I'm going to go through an article. The main part of our story here, I'm going to go through an article, and the timing of this article could not have been any better in my estimation. Thank you, Amanda Krisovich. Thank you for writing this article and getting it out. Absolutely fantastic. There is a link in the description box below the video of the article. If you want to go ahead and read it yourself later on. Amanda Krisovich. Let's see. Let's if I can find it here. Okay. Front Office Sports, Amanda Krisovich. Basketball-only schools could see power surge after House settlement approval. Schools with FBS football programs face a major dilemma. How much revenue sharing cash should go to the basketball programs? The power dynamics. Again, Amanda Krisovich today, just early morning today, great article. The power dynamics in college basketball could change forever on April 7th, though not because the men's national championship tips off that day. The House versus NCAA settlement approval hearing is slated for 10 a.m. PT, a landmark proposal that could bring an era of revenue sharing to NCAA sports for the first time in history. We can skip the next part, right? Each division program would allow to offer up $20.5 million, right? We know about that. Schools with FBS football programs face a major dilemma. If they give the vast majority of the money to the football program, as many are planning to do, they might leave their basketball teams with fewer recruiting resources. But non-football schools are already planning to take advantage of their different position. As we look ahead to this revenue sharing model, I think that can be and maybe will be an advantage for us. Big East Commissioner Val Ackerman told Front Office Sports after the conference tournament, because our schools can direct their dollars, whether it's direct payments by the schools or money from the third parties through collectives or other third-party entities, we could go right to basketball. Hold on for just 1 second. I want to try to clear something up here. There we go. See if that works better. While conferences send a much higher number of at-large bids, the power conferences, to the men's and women's tournaments each year, they certainly don't always win. The Big East has claimed 4 of the past 8 men's basketball championships. And this year, the Cinderella programs have already begun to upset power schools. By the end of round 64, 6 of the SEC 14 teams had lost. The ACC lost all of its teams except for Duke. The House settlement could ensure that trend continues or even blossoms. The power conference schools are expected to pay football programs 75% of the $20.5 million. Take the Red Raiders reported breakdown. 74% to the football team, 17 and 18% to the men's basketball team, 2% of the women's basketball team, 1.8% of the baseball team. Now, again, and we've talked about this, every athletic department's payouts is going to look a little bit different than the other. Right? The football team, the 75, 74, 76, 77, 72, it's all going to be around that number. But the men's basketball, the women's basketball, baseball, a lot of Power 4 conferences are not going to be putting down 1.8% to their baseball. Texas Tech is. A lot of SEC schools will match that or maybe go a little bit higher. I doubt any Big Ten schools are going to put 1.8% to the baseball. Maybe UCLA. Right? Meanwhile, schools without football programs can pour more of their resources into hoops, potentially enticing recruits away from the power conference schools and building on their existing success. And because of the revenue sharing cap, basketball-only schools don't even have to offer all the $20.5 million to be competitive if they can't afford it. If a Big East program, for example, can afford only $10 million in revenue sharing, it can still pay its men's and women's basketball players more than its power conference counterparts. Will a football-focused league like the SEC then be able to continue sending so many teams to the men's tournament, even with all the commitment to the sport is already made in recent years? Some schools may be more willing to relinquish basketball resources than others. Historic men's and women's basketball blue bloods could face the biggest dilemma. On the men's side, think UNC, Duke, Kentucky. On the women's side, think Notre Dame, Tennessee, South Carolina, and LSU. Even UConn has an FBS football team to pay. Perhaps they'll have to make a choice about whether to risk falling behind in football recruiting to maintain hoops prowess. There is, however, a potential mechanism to help power conference programs, the continued existence of NIL collective and booster deals. Yes, yes, and yes. Players will still be allowed to sign deals with collective boosters and other supporters of the programs. But those deals are going to have to pass through a clearinghouse. But in the revenue sharing era, it's unclear how successful that will be because of the settlement. Deloitte will review deals from boosters or collectives over $100, $600 to ensure their fair market value. Again, overall, I'm just going to finish it up. The Big East acumen felt positive about the league's future. We don't have football revenue, but we don't have football expenses either. That's never been a bigger advantage. Okay. Roger Dodger, this was a waste of ink. Whew. Larry the GM, non-football schools don't have any money to spend. This is wishful thinking. Big East has to be very happy about this. Okay, so this is, we're going to do some connecting the dots. None of us know, none of us, including myself, how successful programs will be. You know what? Let me put this a different way. I didn't say that correctly. Nobody knows how successful these outside collectives or even collectives inside the athletic department are going to be in getting these NIL deals through Deloitte, through the clearinghouse. Any deal over $600. Because this clearinghouse is going to be determining market value. We do not know how successful that's going to be. Like, you do not know, none of us knows, how much Alabama, just take Alabama for example. We do not know how much money the Alabama football student athletes are going to be able to get using a collective, be it outside or inside the athletic department, beyond the revenue share. We're not talking revenue share. We don't know how successful the Alabama football player is, how much money they're going to be able to get in their name, image, and likeness deals. We don't know at what extent, how strict that clearinghouse is going to be in deciding what deals are market value and what is not good. If you are a football player, and again, we're using Alabama as an example, and you got a $2 million NIL deal, you've got to prove, at least right now, until it all breaks apart because of the courts, I'm talking about what's going on right now. You've got to be able to prove your market value to who's ever given you that money. What are you doing for that company? What are you doing for that company? Who is giving you that money, and what are you doing for it? Are you worth $2 million to that car wash that is plastering your face all over their outside walls? Now, I would say in a free market system, if they're willing to pay you $2 million, you got the $2 million. But in this world, as it stands right now, the clearinghouse is going to somehow use an artificial intelligence or whatever. They're going to determine if you are of true value. We don't know how tight that's going to be. The tighter it is, the more difficult it is for a student athlete to make more than $600 on their name, image, and likeness deal outside of the rev share. The more difficult that is, well, you can tell what kind of effect it's going to have, right? Then a lot of it is going to be based on rev share. Like St. John's, Villanova, rev share, they're going to be able to give more money in rev share to their basketball players than the power conference programs because they're going to be giving most of that rev share to their football players. That's what that article is all about. Now, if it's loose, if it's a loose Deloitte, if it's a loose clearinghouse, if we can't see much difference between this clearinghouse and what we have been terming pay for play, then the power conferences, big time schools are not going to have to worry about it. They don't have to worry about the rev share percentages because they can just blow out everybody or at least stay even with big basketball programs that don't have a football program. If they just stay even with them or close to even in the rev share, they're going to be able to blow them out with the NIL collectives. So it's determining what Deloitte is going to be all about. None of us know exactly how that's going to be the result. So let me connect the dots here. I've lately been talking about Duke. We know that the big Duke money people, the power people, they're making a lot of calls. They had a meeting in the South, which I can't go any more into other than saying there was a hot bubble of action with Duke big money people. It happened. The message that Duke is telling everybody, we will take care of it. Don't have to worry about Duke. We are going to fill in all the boxes that we can control. We come in at less than full share, not a problem. Not a problem. When it comes to the commitment to the basketball program, if we would enter into a big P2 conference, no matter what happens, we are going to be committed to our basketball program. We are going to spend the money. Even if we got half media money, we are going to take care of the basketball program. Duke, so this is what Duke is trying to tell everybody. While your Power Four conferences, the schools, a lot of money is going to go to the football program. Our NIL, if it's a loose NIL collective system, we got it. If it's a tight one, we've got it. We gave Darren Mensah a whole bunch of money to be our quarterback, the highest paid transfer quarterback. Darren Mensah went to Duke. Oh, and by the way, we're spending a whole lot, millions and millions of dollars on our NIL and basketball. UConn. They've been telling Yormark, they've been telling everybody. You know about UConn, two-time defending reigning NCAA champion. They've won all these championships of blue blood in basketball. They're saying to everybody, look, rev share, you know what? We'll do what everyone else is doing when it comes to football. Everybody's getting a full boat in the Big 12. Man, maybe we are a program that will come in a little less. Maybe we will be the Big 12 program that comes in a little less than everybody else is making. But you don't have to worry about our commitment to basketball because our NIL collectives are all over it. We don't need the rev share money to maintain our basketball program. UConn, Duke, this is part of what they're selling, and the commissioners are listening to it. A lot of these athletic departments, they're making tough decisions. Right? Pretty much everybody is making it. Do we have to cut sports? Exactly what is our payout going to be? How are we going to get these NIL deals through the clearinghouse? They're trying to get more corporate businesses involved. Because if you got an NIL deal with a Fortune 500 company, it's probably going to be more valuable market-wise to you as a student athlete than your local car wash shop. So these schools are scrambling. There's things out there that I'm not able to talk about. I'm embargoed on it, but the FedEx is not the only Fortune 500 company that is about to make deals. I've already made deals with major institutions to try to get past the clearinghouse because you'll be able to sell it more. This is what UConn and Duke are selling. So the dots are being connected. Football is going to continue to bring in the most money, of course, and it's not even close. It's not even close. But what I said on the College Football Mafia show last night, is there is this wariness that some programs are not going to be able to keep up. They're not. This is an ever escalating, more expensive to be able to compete at the highest level of these sports. And a lot of programs, most programs in these conferences, even in the SEC and the Big 10, and in the Big 12 and the ACC, they're not going to be able to compete at the highest level in every single sport. There are a handful of schools that are going to be able to do it, but most are not. They're still going to invest in all these sports, but they got to pick their sports that they are going to mostly go all in on. It's the nature of the beast. So if you're looking at the SEC and you got all these major football programs, big time brand, that is why the SEC is so valuable. The fan bases are crazy for football content. Right? The SEC just got 14 teams into the NCAA tournament. It did not go all that well, but you see the investment of the SEC into basketball because they think that is going to be a growth stock for them, and it's already hit for them. They've already made more money this year than any other year ever in basketball. So in North Carolina, no matter what is going on in North Carolina, you know that basketball is going to be at the tip of their brain. The SEC is going to be interested in North Carolina because they've got the big basketball brands. They're loaded. Duke is sitting out there pounding, making a whole bunch of noise. And UConn and the Big 12, you can start connecting the dots here. Football still drives the bus. But basketball is something that these schools are trying to sell to these commissioners. We will be your commitment to basketball. We will be your basketball school. We will have the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC. We will help you out. There are people right now talking about a Big East ACC merger in basketball. I did not put up the article because I already had too long of a monologue, and I'm going to get to your phone calls right now. There are people talking about a Big East ACC merger. You've got Big East people saying some ACC schools really need us. You've got ACC saying, well, the Big East really needs us, and it would help us if we merged. They're having serious discussions about this. They're having serious discussions about this while we all know that football drives the bus. But you can't just let your second highest revenue sport hemorrhage and bleed all over the floor. You can't, especially when your basketball schools are losing competition to football schools. They're losing in basketball. Basketball schools are losing in basketball. In the ACC, you've seen the big drop-off. You've seen it. So again, people saying, well, basketball don't mean anything, Greg. It's all about football. You've got actual Hall of Fame people talking between a merger between the ACC and the Big East. Largely due in part because of what's going on in the ACC. While at the same time, big money, big important people at Duke are talking about a merger between the ACC and the Big East. The big money people at Duke are talking to the big money people in the SEC and the Big Ten to say, we want out. North Carolina, they want out. Anyways, we're going to get to your phone calls right now. Football powers, Michigan and A&M are playing a very competitive basketball game right now. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. If anybody wants to give me a call, you know what? I just talk about anything in college football that your heart desires. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. The line is wide open. I know a lot of people are watching college basketball. I completely understand it. I wanted to do a show today talking about football, but a lot of it has been about basketball. A lot of it has been about basketball.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, Mr. BYU Cougar, the floor is yours.
Well, Greg, America needs BYU to beat the evil Badgers tonight. I don't think it'll happen, but it needs to be done. So,
with all respect and love that I have for the evil Badger, Ryan Willie, all the love and respect I have for my dear friend of over 4 decades, Mr. Jeff Olson, and all the other evil Badger fans that I'm very close with, lots of great friends and everything. I completely support Ryan Thomas' statement. Go Cougars, boo Badgers. Go Cougars, boo Badgers. Go BYU. What do you got going on, sir? Besides that big game, what do you got going on?
Well, I mean, it's like I said before. I mean, I could see, and I think people need to be aware of this on the whole Wolfpack backpack. I think if UNC gets a full share, Greg, and NC State would end up, if they left and went to the Big 12 and got would have equivalent money available to them as what they're getting now. I think it would be very hard for the North Carolina Board of Governors to hold UNC back. And the reason why is because they have a fiduciary duty to the overall system. And if UNC has the opportunity to make 3 times as much money and they try to turn that down, UNC could turn around and sue the Board of Governors and likely win. So I would not be surprised to see that being played. I don't think that's because at the end of the day, that Board of Governors has to, they can't hold things back by petty reasons. And it's the same reason why you saw Oklahoma State and Oklahoma split and, other splits happen. It's the same reason why you saw what happened with Cal and UCLA. Will NC State get a little bit of a settlement? Sure, but if UNC is getting the full share, that will work. And I think that's likely something that I guarantee you Sankey's going to try to work to get. And keep in mind that some of those Board of Governors people have Duke connections, and although Duke is private, those people have connections. And if Duke is benefiting from moving up to the P2, then that will sway some votes. So I've thought about this, and I think that whole Wolfpack backpack is just a bunch of malarkey. I don't think there's any teeth to it. So sorry, NC State fans, you'll have to deal with it, but that's just the reality. The interesting thing will be is if that's the case, and I've said this before, Greg, I think people need to stop and think about this. The SEC, and I don't care what Paul Feinbaum says because he's an idiot, Greg, and he can't.
Who's an idiot? I'm sorry.
Paul Feinbaum.
Okay.
Because he says FSU has zero value to the SEC, and that's bunk. I can tell you that those FSU games against SEC teams get some pretty darn good ratings, Greg. And, ESPN would like that. But the also thing to remember is if FSU joins the Big Ten and eventually gets AAU status, does the University of Florida really want Miami and FSU, one near the state capitol, which is the center of power, influence, and one in a huge metropolitan area, Miami, both AAU and in the Big Ten Academic Alliance. Does the University of Florida really want that to happen? Because I can tell you right now, that would siphon off research dollars from the University of Florida faster than an artery that's been cut. I mean, that would literally bankrupt Gainesville and probably do significant damage to the University of Florida. And I think politically you're going to see politicians and interest and even UF push to add FSU to the SEC. I think that I would not be surprised to see Duke, Carolina, UVA, and FSU in the SEC, and I would not be surprised to see Miami in the Big Ten. That seems to make a good match. And, depending on what happens, maybe it's Stanford, maybe it's Georgia Tech, but either or could be good adds to the Big Ten if Notre Dame doesn't budge along, and either or would be good, would be good carrots to the Notre Dame stick for the Big Ten to once again have more, because both have connections and rivalries with Notre Dame. So, I could see that happening, and I think the real loser could be Clemson. So, I don't know if they try to rebuild with Louisville and everyone else, but my guess is without UNC and without FSU, that's a big gigantic, and even without Miami, that's a big gigantic hit to the TV value of that contract. And ESPN, yes, the contract's guaranteed. Yes, it's guaranteed till 2036, but I don't think ESPN gave up that composition clause, and I think ESPN, yeah, they can honor the deal, but they'll have the right to negotiate it down to a lower value if there's a significant change in value to the membership. So I don't know if that'll happen, and maybe it makes sense to me, Greg. Maybe it makes sense to me that Wake Forest, BC, Syracuse, Pitt, Stanford, Cal, SMU, and whoever's left there in the ACC, and add Tulane and go to the Big East, maybe that makes sense in all sports, and then they can, take UConn with them and form their own separate nine-team football conference and do their own thing, and maybe having games with Notre Dame as well. I could see this all materializing that way. I don't know if it will happen, but this is just me with the as Moen would say, this is just me, Greg, with the cork board and the yarn and pins, connecting different ways with all these different machinations and conspiracy theories. So, I'm likely on something and not onto something, Greg. But, these are just the wild and crazy thoughts of mine, and I thought I'd share them with you, and they'll likely be wrong, just like my brackets are every year. But that's all I got, Greg. Great show. Thank you so much for all you're doing, and beat those evil Badgers tonight.
You got it.
Thanks,
you got
Greg.
it. Beat
Bye.
those Badgers. Thank you, sir. Great call. Great call. So I want to hit great call by Ryan Thomas. Super chat, UNC, Duke, Virginia, Florida State to the SEC, Miami, Georgia Tech to the Big 12. Ryan Thomas putting out his prediction. Thank you for the super chat. I want to get to this UConn article. Again, football is driving the bus, but basketball doesn't need to run on diesel engines. The title of the show, the title screen, the latest prevailing winds. You see a UConn Husky up there. So let's talk more about the UConn Huskies. Dama Moore, the ACC now needs UConn as much as UConn needs the ACC. Oh, how things change. Raleigh, North Carolina, for a long time now, UConn has been trying to get into the Power Conference. As the college sports template keeps changing, even more now than revenue sharing about to start, it's no longer about salvaging football. It may be necessary to stay competitive across the board. But for just as long as any such talk has been met with smirks and sneers from outside Connecticut, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has been a believer that brands matter, markets matter, fan bases matter. In his words, and a proponent of adding UConn, but he has yet to convince his conference's presidents of the value. But again, I do not believe they've gotten to a no yet. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. As the NCAA tournament has gotten underway, UConn played Oklahoma men's basketball late Friday night. The fickle winds of the conference realignment may be shifting again, this time with Stores catching the draft. UConn. I don't know how ACC didn't bring UConn in when they did expansion, ESPN analyst Seth Greenberg said this week on Pat McAfee's show, which has an enormous reach. Stanford, Cal, UConn, which one would you guys pick? It goes back much further than that, of course. The ACC began poaching the Big East football, basketball schools more than 20 years ago, but there's no sense relitigating that in a matter of speaking. What is on the front burner now is the Atlantic Coast Conference legendary Tobacco Road, the traditional heart of college basketball, is becoming a faded brand. It's primarily football programs. Florida State and Clemson have been looking for the exits. In men's basketball, the ACC sent only 4 teams to the NCAA tournament. 4! One of those, North Carolina, was sent to Dayton for a play-in, causing a national firestorm, albeit a bit of an overreaction. I don't know about that. 2 others, Louisville and Clemson, were bounced in the round of 64. It's really important to talk about these things, Duke's head coach, basketball coach, when the Blue Devils got the Raleigh. Because the sustainability of getting 3 teams in, now 4, but 3 into the main field initially, it's concerning. The football money has helped the expanding mega power conferences, better known for football, get more and more teams in the NCAA field of 16. The SEC sent 14 of its 16 members. The Big Ten sent 8. The Big 12, 7. These conferences seized the initiative for football programs. Yes, and football is the dominant force in college sports money. But there is little left out there to poach. So maybe the ACC's way off the conference kitty table is to turn the model inside out and expand for basketball purposes. Woo! What ends up happening is a lot of wins that we've gotten in the ACC this year. A lot of it is discredited, Duke's head coach, because you get into a league. You really can't go wrong with some of the games, even if you lose. You're not hurt by it, SEC, necessarily. So there's only upside in a lot of respects. Where in our league, once the ACC started, for the most part, it's downside. This is where UConn comes in. With 2 national championships, a trip back to the NCAA tournament, and one of the biggest names in the sport, Dan Hurley, UConn's brand would add immense value in basketball without necessarily dragging football. Wherever UConn's women basketball plays, that conference is bound to rise and lift all boats. Yormark wanted UConn for this reason. He still wants them. Yormark still wants UConn. And a lot of it's going to depend on whether they go with a private capital deal. And if they go with a private capital deal, what private capital deal do they go with? Is the name UConn in the deal? Back to the article. Yormark wanted UConn for this reason. And also possibly to outmaneuver any ACC plans for a resurgence via basketball. The biggest hang-up for UConn simply entering the ACC of the Big 12 has been its struggling independent football program, but the Huskies have increased strength and relevance after winning 9 games and beating North Carolina. granted a dispirited UNC team in the Fenway Bowl. Fans from Connecticut helped bring 27,000 fans to Fenway Park, and the TV ratings were decent. Jim Mora, as long as he stays, offers reputable coaching, especially in the portal NIL revenue sharing era, with players transferring in for money, a chance to play and get NFL caliber coaching. The location of the stadium is less consequential now. The Big East was the league shortchanged last year when only 3 teams got in. UConn won it all, as Duke very well could this year. Like the ACC, which got 5 of 11 teams into the field of 68 and 25, the Big East is top heavy. Playing teams at the bottom hurt more than help. Hurley, no stranger to the McAfee show, quickly got on board when I asked him in Raleigh Thursday. I've been saying that. I talked to Coach K about that, Hurley said, referring to retired Duke Hall of Famer. Still an important voice. He's texted me that. We've talked about that. I've mentioned it to people at the Big East. I've talked to Dave Benedict, the athletic director, about it. That would just make obviously a ton of sense to come up with some way to get there. Obviously, I think the basketball programs in the ACC could really use that. I think Syracuse has been hurt by losing the Garden, and Pitt's been hurt by losing the Garden. It's harder for them. Boston College, obviously there's been major advantages from a football standpoint, but how cool would it be to find a way to get Syracuse back into some type of ACC Big East Consortium tournament? I don't know if that's a catchy name. Such a merge could be a precursor to separating football and reconfiguring basketball and other sports into regional conferences. Decrease in the travel burdens. But who knows which current power conference schools make the cut? Ideas like that need to be thrown around because this thing's changing too quickly not to. Duke's basketball coach. Here is a place where Yormark has a point. Brands and fan bases do matter. Brands and fan bases do matter. Maybe UConn is known for basketball. Maybe it's known, unlike many teams in power conferences, for something. UConn is known for something. They are a national brand in basketball. Oh, by the way, so is Duke. They are a national brand in something. If UConn is on TV playing football, hockey, or baseball, fans are bound to tune in, if only for curiosity's sake. Hey, UConn plays football. UConn plays baseball. Are they any good? I don't know of some of the other former American Athletic Conference teams that were accepted into the Big 12 or the ACC bring the same thing. He's got a good point, you know. At least UConn is known for something. Sure, again, at the end of the article, sure, all of this is a combination of conjecture, common sense, and Connecticut view of the countryside. Ultimately, conferences want schools for value. They would add to the conference, not the other way around, but something feels different. Like the narrative is changing again. And UConn could finally benefit from the latest prevailing winds. The latest prevailing winds. And that is what was in our bubble, speech bubble, the fat guy from Minnesota speech bubble, as we did this live show. So I wanna just comment about something here. I want to circle back. Football completely drives the bus. It is what brings in the most money. That hasn't changed. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of this. National brands mean a lot, right? They just do. They bring the eyeballs, right? If you are a commissioner, let's just say you're the commissioner of the SEC. You've got 16 universities. And you've got candidate A versus candidate B. And candidate A brings a 1 out of 10 big time basketball brand, and they bring in a 4 of a football brand. Okay? And you've got another school that brings in an 8 when it comes to the football brand and 7 when it comes to the basketball brand. You would think the 8 and 7 would have more value, especially because football is regarded so much more valuable than basketball. But maybe the winds are changing just a little bit. Maybe if you are a Big Ten in the SEC, you're looking at things a little bit differently. Maybe if you're Brett Yormark, you know or you believe, or Brett Yormark believes that bigger football brands are going to come to the Big 12. He believes that there's going to be an opportunity. He believes that the ACC, the biggest football brands, are going to be leaving eventually. And that's going to open up some bigger football brands for him eventually, right? It could open up a Louisville. It could open up a Virginia Tech. It could open up a Syracuse. It could. And if you've got UConn bringing in Syracuse, Louisville, Virginia Tech. So Brett Yormark might be wanting that 10, that value brand 10 in men's basketball and women's basketball. No, football is still the most valuable. But if you've got an opportunity to bring in a national brand with that market for that private capital, I think that is why UConn is in the portfolios. I think that's why UConn is in part of some of these private capital offerings that have been shown to Brett Yormark and the Big 12 presidents. And if you want to connect the dots to Duke, I think Duke is using the same arguments as UConn on a different scale. There's teams in the ACC that can way outmatch Duke on football brand. More valuable than Duke. But Duke is coming in at it from a different angle. They're saying to everybody, we don't have to get the full bolt. You don't have to pay us the full bolt. We're not going to do an SMU, but maybe we'll do a little bit of a Stanford. We don't have to come in on a full bolt. We bring in our big research. We bring in a national brand. And most importantly, Duke is telling people. They're telling SEC big money people. They're telling Big Ten big money people. We will take care of Duke. We've got the money. You know we got the money. We got loads of it. We got a massive endowment. We are going to make sure that basketball program is competitive. We're going to make sure we're going to make sure lacrosse teams, we're going to make sure we're going to do all this in football. We're not going to be one of those football programs that are going to be challenging for the Big Ten or the SEC conference title. But we're going to have enough money. Look what we just did. We just got the number 1 quarterback out of the portal, Darren Mensah. We can take care of ourselves. That is the Duke selling point. And in some parts, that is the UConn selling point. Anyways, let's get back to your phone calls. Once again, I hope I did get an alert here. Unfortunately, I'm hoping that the phone lines will work. They did work for Ryan Thomas. Phone lines are back open, 763-260-1333. Give us a call. The phone lines are back open, 763-260-1333. Let me know what is going on in college basketball tournament. I haven't been watching. I have not been watching. Let me know. Look, I don't doubt it for a moment that Florida State big money people, Clemson big money people, a lot of people are talking. They're having meetings. Nothing is disguised anymore.
From
The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
Listen, I wanted to call in and talk a little bit about UNC
You got it.
and what's going on there. They know they want to be in the P2, right? They know they can't stay in the ACC, and so I think there's some factors here that's kind of making it tough for them to figure out where they want to go. One is if they could wave a magic wand and just make something happen that would be beneficial to them, they would want to be able to go into a new conference with Duke and NC State and UVA as their main rivals. They would like that block to stay together. And, Greg, I think the problem that they have is that if they decide to go to the SEC, I don't think the SEC will take 3 schools from North Carolina. They probably could go to the Big Ten with Duke, but there's no way NC State would get into the Big Ten, and so then they'd run into this situation where the SEC would probably take NC State, and then it's the TAMU effect, right? So they don't want to have to be competing with an in-state rival that's in the SEC while they're playing in a more northern-oriented conference. So I think that they know they want to be in the P2, Greg, but I think that they're not sure where they want to go.
Well, I think I happen to believe that UNC, for multiple reasons, leans to the SEC. I have said 1,000 times that doesn't mean that the door is shut on the Big Ten. The Big Ten will target North Carolina, and all of that may be happening right now. I haven't gotten word that it is. I do know big money people are talking. We know that, okay? I mean, big money has slipped. They have ran into the void. Like there was this ACC settlement that happened. I mean, there can be first party talks. There can be all sorts of talks. No one has to. There's still some cloak and dagger, but I mean, the doors are wide open. People are calling. There is discussions going on, and there's going to be a book written about it. And so all that is going on. But I don't think the Big Ten and the SEC have told UNC officially in a first party talk, this is what we can do for you in 2027, 28. This is what you would get. This is what you would, these are your requirements. This is what we would give you. This is the loans or whatever. I think it's hard for UNC to have made a decision on where they're going because they know they're in the catbird seat and they're going to be looking for the best offer to show their board of governors, right? So I think you're right. I think it's too early for them to know exactly where they want to go, but internally, politically, it leans to the SEC. That is my best guess on that.
Yeah, well, you're probably right in that, Greg. But, one factor you got to remember here is that they are used to being surrounded by rivals that are in driving distance. I mean, 4 schools in North Carolina, 2 more in Virginia. They really would like to keep it. I mean, of all the P2 candidates, they have the most regional situation, like where most of their rivals are just really close to them. They want to keep that as much as possible. And these are peer institutions, Greg, academically, Duke and, UVA. I mean, these are incredible academic institutions. And I don't know what their thought process is, but I can easily see it to where they might just make the decision based on who would take most of the schools they want to be with. That they might just come down to that. They might just say, hey, look, how many of this group are you willing to take in your conference? That's where we want to go. And you know what? The Big Ten already has Maryland. And so that could play into this, a former conference mate. If both the Big Ten and the SEC say, look, we can only take you along with Duke or NC State, but not both, I can see them saying, well, you know what, let's just go to the Big Ten. And at least we'll have Maryland. We'll get Virginia probably to come with us, and we'll have something close. We'll have a pod that was similar to what we used to have. So I think the Big Ten has a lot of options here if they're willing to take some of their friends.
I do not know. I couldn't even put a percentage on it. I mean, I can speculate. I don't know what the chances are of 2 North Carolina schools going to the same conference. I'm sure that's what North Carolina would want.
Right.
I would have a hard time if the SEC goes, and they very well could. This is what I believe right now. If the SEC expands by 2, I think at that point, if they expand by 2, that's what they're going to do this time around. Or they're going to expand by 4. I don't think they're going to do 2. I don't think they're going to do what the Big Ten did. And the Big Ten did it that way for lots of reasons, where they took USC, UCLA, and then months later took Oregon and Washington. They did it for legal counsel reasons. They didn't want to be seen. They didn't want to get sued. They didn't want to be seen as the sole reason why the Pac-12 blew up. And they had commissioner issues. The Fox and Kevin Warren relationship and the Kevin Warren and the Big Ten president's relationship was straining. So there's lots of reasons why there was that gap. I don't believe in an SEC expansion gap. Whatever they do, I think they're going to do it in one fall swoop. Okay? So I think we're going to see right off the bat, SEC takes 2 or SEC takes 4. I happen to believe, just my opinion, okay? Just my opinion. If I'm wrong, I'll take the L, even though I'm not reporting. In my opinion, if the SEC goes ahead and takes a North Carolina +1, be it Virginia or Duke, and I still think Virginia is in the catbird seat on that. If they go 3, if they go to a 3rd school, which means they go to a 4th school, I think that 3rd and 4th school is going to be those football powerhouses, Florida State, Clemson. That's what I believe. I do not believe if the SEC decides to go 4, I think they have made an internal decision among the presidents. Let's go this way, and also let's go this way. Let's get it all. Let's scoop it up. Let's get all this diversity of quality, value, diversity of value in bandwidth in our conference. Let's go scoop up all 4. I can't see 3 schools from the North Carolina going to one conference. I don't even believe there's going to be 2 schools from the state of North Carolina going to one conference. Just my belief. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I think that, the SEC in its history, Greg, has doubled up in states a whole lot. They were doubled up in Louisiana before Tulane left. They were doubled up in Georgia before Georgia Tech left. And even today, they've got Alabama, Mississippi, and Texas. And I think, I think if North Carolina came to the SEC and said, look, you have to take NC State to get us, I think the SEC would probably do it. They might say, now look, we can't do it in this round of expansion, but we'll get them, we'll get them next time around. That might be the deal, right? But I think you're probably right. I think it's North Carolina and Virginia is what they're really looking at. New states, academic blue bloods, or basketball blue bloods, academic elites, and soften up the football schedule a little bit. So I think that's I think you're right there, and that's probably what's going to happen. Greg, and I think one thing that works against Florida State a little bit is that there are multiple options in the state of Florida, and I think that lowers the priority of getting a Florida State only because you can come back later and get a Miami, or if you're willing to wait 5 or 10 years, you could circle back and get maybe a South Florida or a Central Florida. And people who think that those schools have no chance of getting into the P2 one day, I think they're just sorely mistaken. Those schools are ascending. They're building out facilities, Greg. They have huge student bodies. They're in a growing state that shows no sign of slowing down. They're in Tampa. They're in Orlando, huge cities that are continuing to grow. And I think that Florida State, as great as it is, there's just other options in the state. If your priority is to get into the state of Florida, it doesn't have to be with Florida State. And I think that works against them a little bit, right? So for North Carolina, it's like, hey, this is clear-cut the best option in the state of North Carolina. I think that's why there's such a priority for both conferences.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just my worthless 2 cents that I wanted to share with you.
You got it. No, I appreciate it. Great call again, sir.
All right, Greg, you keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Beautiful.
All right. Bye-bye.
Beautiful. Okay, beautiful Saturday afternoon PATC live show, March 22nd. I appreciate you all joining us. Again, I know it's basketball. It's the dance NCAA tournament. We did a live show on Thursday, and I appreciate everybody joining us on Thursday and today on Saturday. We're probably going to do another live show tomorrow during the dance. Again, this is College Football Peek Around the Corner. This is for college football sickos. If you are interested in subscribing to our channel, just please hit the button and then turn on your notifications. We can come on live at any time. So you got to have your notifications turned on to college football's Peek Around the Corner. We don't come in on a schedule. We come in at any time, late at night, early in the morning. We do lunchtime live shows, breakfast time live shows. You got to keep your head on a swivel. I want to thank everybody who has donated to this channel, helping us keep the lights on here. Ryan Willie, Ricky Tungate, Anthony Carlson, and Mr. Ryan Thomas. Thank you for your generosity. I very much appreciate it. Without those donations, we cannot continue on because the little general has a budget for this College Football Peek Around the Corner channel. So we got to meet the budget. So I thank you so much for those donations. Thank you, everybody, for coming on in the chat room, phone calls. Football is going to be hitting, I think, a very hot next couple of weeks. I think we're going to be getting a lot of different reports heading into the April 7th House NCAA settlement. So buckle up, keep your head on a swivel. Again, we could be coming on live at any time Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.